2019 to order. Madam Secretary, will you take roll?
Commissioner Benavides, Commissioner Rivera, Commissioner Alderetti, Vice Chair Contreras-Leo,
Here.
Chair McLaughlin,
Here.
Commissioner Cano, Commissioner Nguyen.
Here.
Chair, you have quorum.
Thank you. Could we stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance? Felix, would you lead us?
Ready? Begin.
Thank you. Before we get underway, I would like to introduce Felix Rivera. He is representing Ward 2, David Penaloza's ward. And I wanted to thank Lynette Verino for her services as the Planning Commission for the past probably 10 or 15 years, because she's been quite active in the Planning Commission over the years. So welcome, Felix, and thank you, Lynette. We'll now move on to public comments. If any member of the public would like to make a public comment, please, on a non-agenda item, please come out and fill a speaker card at this point in time. You'll have 3 minutes. At this moment, I have one card, James Kendrick.
Good evening, Mark, and the fellow new council members, but many of you don't know me, council members. My name is James Kendrick, resident of Santa Ana for almost 40 plus years. I'm here because over the last several months I've watched the circus here at the City Council. Unfortunately, you guys aren't televised, but I feel sorry for the citizens. One, the general plan still isn't updated. Several neighborhoods had to come before you and argue over a certain piece of property on North Main. It was uncalled for. A waste of city money, time and energy, neighbors, and city staff. A waste of city time and energy and money. That property's been vacant for years. Why? The developer has a right to develop. It needs to be sensible property. But, you know, all this energy and time and neighbor against neighbor. So the general plan has to be done and over with. And it has to be smart. And I'm a Lyft driver. Let me tell you what, I drive around. And even in our older neighborhoods, the parking, that needs to be addressed. We're building some great new housing. But, and you know, you talk about affordable housing, they're not affordable. Look at what your incomes are and look at what the rates are in these apartments. They're not affordable to most people that live in this city. You're still getting doubled up families, tripled up families living in these what you call affordable housing. And what happens? You have more cars. So the parking standards that planning is being introduced and state is introduced is not working to standards. So think about what's happening. Sure, we need to build the housing. Even in our older neighborhoods, even your own families. Mom and dad had a car and a garage. Garages aren't being used. They're being used for storage and housing. So now you got now your kids are staying home longer. So now all those kids are now parking on the street. That's why you have overcrowded parking in your neighborhoods and in the apartment communities, because nobody's using their garages and all the apartments are so they're not affordable. The average 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment right now in Santa Ana starts at $2,400 and up. Can you afford that on your own? No. Even a couple has a hard time with that. So let's think. So where are we going? So the general plan has to be finished and updated. We don't need to have neighborhoods coming down here and spending hours of testimony why they don't want something. That neighborhood has fought this. Something has to go there sooner or later.
Thank you, James.
So anyway,
Appreciate it.
Just think about it.
Okay, we appreciate your input. Thank you. Does anybody else at this point in time have anything to state with regards to non-agendized items? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing for public comment, and we'll move on to the consent calendar. Since Felix was not at the last meeting, we do not have a quorum to vote on the minutes at this point. He can still vote on it?
It's a perfunctory kind of thing, it's fine.
Okay. You said so. All right. Having said that, then, do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting last month?
So move.
Second? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So it's 4-0, and 3 absent at this point in time. Do I have a motion to consider the absences of David Benavides, Eric Alderetti, and Angie Cano?
I'd like to make a motion to consider excusing the absences of Commissioners Alderetti, Cano, and Benavides.
Okay. Second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
4-0, and 3 absences. We'll move on to the business calendar.
Excuse me.
Oopsie.
C.
It's listed under the consent calendar, so if you would like a staff presentation, or you can just go ahead and make a motion to approve.
Okay, so what we're referring to is the item 1, which is the
It's the minor exception.
And C.
minor exception.
Yeah, item C.
Item C on that one. Okay.
And to clarify, staff has no presentation ready for you since that's a consent item, but I, as a zoning administrator, have the background on it, so I can answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Since we don't have a presentation, we do not have to open it up for public comment at this point in time?
No.
All right. So in that case, do we have a motion on item C, which is a minor exception number 2018-02 to allow an overhead electrical feeder at the new single-family residence and detached accessory dwelling unit located at 206 South Andres Place? Go ahead.
Is this something common? I'm not into
The
construction.
overhead, not too common, but it does occur. Simply put, in order for this, it's a new house is being built there. In order to provide electrical service to the house, it had to trench across the street over 2 people's properties. So it was very difficult, almost impossible to get easements over 2 neighbors to get it done. They have a pole in the back, but there's no easement for the underground there as well. So the waiver was approved based upon those hardships on the site. So maybe 1 a year comes up.
Is this something that Edison gets involved with?
Edison does, and their recommendation was approve the waiver.
This was their recommendation?
Yes, this was the record.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
But I was also under the understanding that this is something that we're trying to push more now than we have in the past, so that as we do go forward, we get more of the overhead lines underground.
Yes, and our code is written to encourage underground utilities. In this
Right.
case, there was so many hardships, it was physically, financially impossible to occur.
Well, I think the biggest challenge is usually something like that, the span has 2 to 3 residences inside that pole-to-pole situation.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a minor exception. Do we have a motion and a second on the minor exception?
I'd like to make a motion on to approve the minor exception number 2018-02 to allow an overhead electrical feeder at a new single-family residence detached.
Do we have a second?
I'm second.
Okay, Ken, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0 with 2 absences. Okay. We'll now move on to the regular business calendar. The format action by the Planning Commission shall become effective after the 10-day appeal period unless the City Council holds a public hearing on the matter. Then formal action will become effective on the day following the hearing and a decision by the City Council. An appeal from the decision or requirement of the Planning Commission must be filed with the Clerk of the Council and a copy sent to the Planning Department within 10 days of the date of the Commission's action. The appeal may be made by any interested party, individual, or group. This is the time and place to consider item number 1, conditional use permit number 2019-05 to allow the sale of alcoholic beverages, beer and wine for the on-premise consumption at the new eatery establishment Wingstop located at 1302 East 17th Street, Unit D, in the planned shopping center C4 zoning district. Does anyone have anything to disclose at this point in time with regards to this item from the commission? No? All right.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. This first item on the agenda tonight is a request for approval of a conditional use permit to allow the sale of alcoholic beverages for on-premise consumption at a new Wingstop restaurant located at 1302 East 17th Street, Unit D. The subject site is located on the southeast corner of Grand and 17th Street within an integrated shopping center anchored by a Target. The general plan designation is GC for general commercial. The zoning designation is C4 for planned shopping center. The property is surrounded by commercial and single-family residential uses to the north and to the east, single-family residential uses to the south, and commercial uses to the west. Wingstop is proposing to occupy a 1,400 square foot tenant space in a newly constructed multi-tenant commercial building. The subject unit is currently undergoing interior tenant improvements to construct a new kitchen, storage area, and a dining area. The restaurant will accommodate approximately 32 patrons within its dining area and operate Monday through Sunday from 10:30 a.m. to 12 a.m. All alcoholic beverages are proposed to be stored within a storage area and within a service counter area, which will be less than 30 square feet. Staff has concluded that the proposed request will benefit the community by providing a restaurant with additional complimentary food-related amenity, will not be detrimental to the health, safety, or general welfare, and will be in compliance with all applicable regulations and operational standards for restaurants and alcoholic uses. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve Conditional Use Permit 2019-05 as conditioned. That concludes staff's presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time. I would also like to note that we have a representative for Wingstop today, or actually the applicant who submitted the application.
Do the commissioners have any questions of staff? Good, David.
No questions. Well, I do have a comment, but not on the application, on the developed projects. This is a new development, correct? This will be the first tenant use of that space there. I'm ready to move the item, which I'll do.
I just have one question. This particular establishment doesn't have a drive-through, but this is set up with a drive-through, correct?
Correct. I believe the drive-thru is for the Dunkin' Donuts proposed at that location.
Okay, so there's another Dunkin' Donuts is coming into this?
It's a 4-unit multi-tenant
Right.
building.
Right.
This specific unit space is not occupying the drive-thru.
Okay, great. That's, I just wanted clarification on. Okay. Any other comments? No? All right.
I think is a public hearing still technically open? I don't know if you need to close that before I
We
can
have to
make a
do
motion.
public hearing. Yeah, yeah. So we have no, does the applicant want to speak at this point in time?
Chairman and members of the Planning Commission, I've read the staff report. I'm in agreement with the staff report. We are in agreement with all the conditions except for condition number 3. The tenant does not have an authority to sign a maintenance agreement and to be responsible for the upkeep of the center. It has no control over that. it cannot be responsible for any of the upkeep of the center. And if the property owner is not signing the agreement, there is an issue. There is no nexus between the alcohol and the upkeep of the center. Also, Wingstop, my client did have, there's another location within the Santa Ana area that was approved in late 2018, and that location is 701 South Harbor Boulevard, suite number C, and it was not, this particular condition was not placed on that project. We do have a concern with that condition. Otherwise, we support the staff report. We support all the conditions except for condition number 3.
Okay. Who, on this particular one, Pedro, are you going to talk to the condition, or is that something you want to cover, Vince?
Mr. Chairman, that condition was one that we started adding towards the end of last year, so in the summer, early last year, and it is a property maintenance agreement, and we tie it to all discretionary applications because, as you all are aware, these applications run with the land, and the tenant leaves, the CEP is still there for the next tenant, and somebody has to keep on using it in perpetuity. So we think it's a pretty valid issue. As you'll notice in the reports that all these reports before you have the same condition. And it really is, it almost quotes what we have in the code about keeping the property maintained. There's pre-construction issues there where noise, soil erosion, all kinds of just really verbiage that covers construction, as well as operational standards. So again, it's fairly new, but we think it's important enough to have it in there, and it doesn't really do anything more than what our code covers, essentially the property maintenance. The applicant brought up a point about if the property owner doesn't sign it, maybe we can word it to say it's subject to approval by the property owner.
Good.
That gets them out of the position of being stuck in the middle of property owner says no, but the city says yes.
But then
It's
also
downright.
condition number 3 too, the tenant needs to sign the maintenance agreement, and they have no control over the upkeep of the center. Their control is just for the interior space.
Right. That's intended to address the area under the control of the Wingstop, and not so much the whole center. We have other ways of getting the entire center to comply, but it's really focused more towards your tenant use.
I have a question. So the other tenants that, once they fill those places as well, will that be the same condition to them?
Only if they have a discretionary application before you. Dunkin' Donuts, there's no CEP needed for coffee, and they don't sell alcohol, so they would not be before this body, so they would not have that condition.
So they would not have a agreement of this nature? or
That's
they-
correct.
So this agreement is tied to the CUP?
It's tied to discretionary application, CEP, variance, whatever it may be. We're looking to codify this language sometime in one of our future code cleanups, so it's clear it applies to everybody. We do have maintenance language in our code right now, but this is just a little more teeth to it.
Have we done this to others?
Since towards the end of
Recently?
last year, yes. So the last few months, and again, all 3 reports you have before you tonight have the same condition.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, David.
Just a comment that I do appreciate the fact that we're looking at ways that we can ensure that properties are maintained. In this case, it is a discretionary. The applicant is asking the city, will you grant us a use at this location that is not a by right use? So they're asking us in essence to provide something for them. I think the city's request then in return is, in essence, we will consider granting you that use. However, what we expect as a city is that a property is maintained. A tenant has more, certain degree more leverage than, we have certain codes, but a tenant, the applicant made reference that they don't have control over the maintenance of the property, although to a certain degree, the property owner certainly is the one who completely controls that. However, if we're renting a space and a property is not being maintained by our landlord as a tenant, we have certain leverage to be able to ask for them to maintain the property that we're renting. So this is where I understand the rationale behind that condition, and and would be supportive of continuing to have that condition in place. Perhaps the language that's being proposed by staff that we reference that it's subject to the landlord signing, then that might address the concerns of the applicant. But I think it does. There's rationale behind it.
All right?
Mr.
Ken?
Chairman, normally, any like a commercial complex like this, they have called common area maintenance. It means maintenance require the whole entire complex. We may want to set a condition that require Wingtop to responsible and will have agreement with the landlord to have the area that with their leasing, like maybe in front of it or whatever, to keep the area clean and well maintained. By doing that, I also understand the city position too that require the landlord that keep the center clean and well maintained as well. I do understand that way, but somehow we need to have fine-tune the condition because I understand the applicant is difficult for them to force the landlord or a tenant in the same complex to keep the area clean.
So, if I may step in, the intent of this condition, as Planning Commissioner Benavides has mentioned, is that we have centers, and if you're a good property manager, if you're a good center, this condition really should not apply to you. This condition gives us the ability to have teeth when we have a property manager or a center that doesn't take care of its center. Gives us the ability to go in and not have to ask for compliance, but compel compliance. One of the aspects of this is that whenever an application is submitted for something like this, the property owner is also a part of the signator to the application, so they need to be made aware of this condition as well and be part of the party to accept these conditions. This will help us as a city to stop being property manager and really just look at development and not necessarily have to go around and beg to really go through a regulatory process for compliance where it's part of maintenance of a commercial center. So for a good commercial center, these rarely becomes a problem. We have this condition so that when it's a problem center, we're able to come in and really address the issue.
I fully understand that, but also the ABC license also benefit the landlord as well, property owner as well, because the tenant cannot take when they decide to move out of the area, they cannot take the license with them. The ABC license stay with that particular location, so the landlord will have a great beneficial financially and everything else potential asking for high rent for the future tenant as well.
Correct.
I agree.
Let me just circle back on this and just say, from the perspective of the applicant, your concern is?
My concern is we do not have control of the upkeep of the center. For instance, we have the responsibility for the interior space and the space around it, whatever is leased space. What happens in the space that there's trash everywhere, that weeds are overgrown, even though it isn't there, like it there, and we run the risk of the CUP being revoked.
Right, and you're a tenant, not the property manager.
We are the tenant for West Restaurant Group.
Right. Okay, so, I mean, you're talking about the fact that the property manager has responsibility of this, and we understand that, but if they're just the tenant in this particular case, yes, notification and having control over, keeping the place clean is a tenant's responsibility as well as the property manager's responsibility, but how do we move through this?
So, we currently don't have these type of conditions on existing centers, and as part of the discretionary review process, the Planning Commission does have the ability to implement this. So it is up to the Commission. It is a recommendation from staff to help us do our job better, but if you feel that this is onerous on a center where a tenant may be hard to achieve, you can consider not necessarily have to omit the condition, but maybe we can look at something less a little bit more cooperative by asking the owner to participate in advance so that the tenant doesn't face a situation where they have to make a decision?
I don't think anybody up here is looking to ignore the type of requests you're looking at, specifically to keep the property clean throughout the whatever complex it is in the city. We need more of that than less of that. I think we have today somewhat of a wording disconnect that doesn't necessarily match up with some of the tenants' situations versus, the concern that you have at the end of the day is if the property management of that particular facility turns around and doesn't do their job, you risk losing your seat.
Yes, we have no control of what the property owner.
David?
Mr. Chair, if I can comment to that, and I believe that's precisely the situation here, that the teeth that staff is, the reason for this,
Yeah.
right? If a tenant is running the risk of having some type of adverse effect due to the property owner's lack of maintenance, then again, they have the leverage to be able to go back, take action against the landlord to whom they're making their lease payments, their rent payment to. There is more at stake, and in essence, the city wins if there's now more attention into ensuring that a property is maintained well. That's the intent,
Right.
I believe here, is that otherwise, if it's not attached, then we can go through our whole process. But in this case, now there's another party who has interest. That is there's an economic interest across the board. Landlord because there's a tenant because of their business and the conditional use that was provided. So again, I get it. I understand what the applicant's question, and ideally, for them, they don't have to deal with it. However, again, for us, looking at the bigger picture and maintenance of property and the benefit to the city.
Let me just ask one question, and that is the entire property, which includes Target, is that all under one property manager? Or is it two separate properties?
That is under one property manager right now, but they did file a map to separate out this parcel plus the parcel on Grand Avenue. So it will be 3 parcels at the end of the
Right,
property.
there's another parcel on.
Yes, there'll be 3.
So there'll be 3 parcels, but they're all under the same property manager?
They're all owned by the same family trust, so I'm pretty sure they'll still be in the same property manager
Okay.
organization.
All right, to some extent, if it's a parcel that's smaller, it's a little more control, but in this particular case, you've got quite an extensive lot.
I understand the applicant's concerns.
Is there some way that we can modify the verbiage to give us the...
Sure.
To cover what the tenant is concerned about, but at the same time give us the ability to have a law or whatever.
Right. To address our concerns,
Policy.
if you look at the staff report, it applies to Unit D only. So if there was ever an issue with the site, we would not go after this applicant. We just can't do that. It's illegal. Lisa's kicked me and punched me a few times already, saying we would never go after this tenant for a maintenance issue with the property. Given that the condition's still there, we believe in the condition. So maybe we can look at some language to tweak it a little bit to satisfy everybody here today.
I have a question. When the development of the building was built, is there a maintenance agreement on the building? Or is because the building was a permitted use, there's no maintenance agreement? So it's going to be based on whoever the tenant is, and if the tenant requires a discretionary action, they're going to be required. I'm still so confused what the nexus is between alcohol and maintenance agreement. I would have thought the maintenance agreement would have been tied to the building and not to alcohol sales. The sales for alcohol at Wingstop is less than 2% of the sales. If you want to go look at their location at Harbor Boulevard, which was approved at the end of the year, it's Far West Restaurant Group LLC is the franchisee, and they keep a very clean operation. You can go visit it. It's just we do have that concern.
Was the condition the same condition?
Let me ask this question. I'm going to follow your lead on that. So this building was developed prior to this condition being put into place, correct?
Correct.
You mentioned there's a map coming forward soon?
It's been approved already.
It's been approved already?
Yes.
Okay.
The map came along with the CUPs for the drive-through lane for the Dunkin' Donuts probably over a year and a half ago, probably.
Okay. What I would recommend then, since this is as she mentioned, a conditional use permit, not necessary to establish the use or the building itself, but for a alcohol, what we could do is make this a condition that we will work with the applicant to notify the property owner and look at potentially a future application where it's not necessarily just alcohol alone, but also include building development. Because it is a bigger center, we may have an opportunity to potentially add this to that process. May that be a potential future building, potential future map, or just working with the property owner overall as part of the commercial center, rather than holding up this applicant. I would feel comfortable with that.
Okay. I guess my question, Cynthia?
I think I'm confused as the applicant is, why not have every tenant responsible for their area? Why does the alcohol make the difference?
No, they still require to maintain the area. This condition applies to the entire center.
So this is not a condition of the CUP?
Not just of the CUP is part of the center.
I'm sorry, of the alcohol license.
We can apply to the alcohol license specifically, but in terms of the overall center, we can work with the owner to implement this condition at a future type land use decision rather than just alcohol.
But it is in the document a condition of the item that we're discussing, so.
Correct.
It is a condition.
It's being recommended as a condition today, right now.
Right. My question that I wanted to ask before is, from the standpoint of the other Wingstop, I don't remember it, but it was within the last 6 months, did we have the same condition built into that agreement?
Mr. Chairman, I do not know, but I have no reason to doubt the applicant's
No, we didn't.
recollection of it.
It was not, so you,
It was not a condition. This is the first, for this particular location, the condition. But the location that was approved in late 2018 on Harbor, there was no condition like this.
right, I mean, I remember that one, but I didn't remember specifically if that condition was built into it.
It was not.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments that they want to? Okay, so where do we go from here at this point in time, from your perspective?
So what we could do at this point in time is have this condition reduced down to the tenant space and the area that the tenant control at the minimum. And we will look for opportunity to work with the center as a whole to continue as we apply this principle as future application come forward.
Right. I mean, I think, again, the commission is very much in favor of a policy that takes care of this. I think we just have to figure out how we're going to be able to implement it based on the conditions, the varying conditions from each of the requests that we get moving forward.
So are you clear? This
I
condition?
am. I still have the concerns why, if we're asking for the CUP for the alcohol sales, I understand as part of it, I need to know what the condition is because I still have the concerns of this, of how it's going to be worded and so forth.
Then what I recommend is a continuance of the item, and we can sit down with the applicant to discuss the maintenance agreement and share the information with them.
Because I do have that concern with the alcohol and the alcohol and the maintenance agreement. What is the nexus? I would have thought when the building was constructed, that's when the maintenance agreement would have happened, and you would have tied it to the owner.
Well, a conditional use permit is a land use approval.
I
We
do know
have
that.
an opportunity
Yes.
to put land use conditions on them.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, maybe we take 2 weeks to sort through this out.
Okay.
We can come back pretty quickly on this issue.
Do we need to open up any public hearing at this point in time, or can we make a motion?
I would open it up,
Okay, that's fine.
open and close.
We're set?
So at this time, it's continued, and then,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Madam Secretary, have we received any written communication on this item?
Yes, one letter in opposition was received, and that was distributed to the commission.
Okay, thank you. We will now open the public hearing. Does anyone want to, at this point in time, make a public hearing comment? Hearing none, we close the public hearing. We'll bring it back to the commission. Do we have a motion from the commission at this point in time? So moved.
Continue the item, right?
To continue.
Motion
You're
to
gonna
continue 2
motion
weeks?
is to continue.
Motion to continue
And
2
you're
weeks.
seconding it, Cynthia? Okay.
Chair, can you specify a date, please?
We'll continue it for 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
So the date specific to that would be the 25th. Thank you. Okay, so we'll continue to the 25th. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0 with 1 absence. Thank you.
You know, Mr. Chair, if I can, I'd mentioned before that had a comment to make, not tied to the CUP, but the project itself. So this more just as point of information for staff on the design of the project itself. This is a major intersection at 17th and Grand. The building itself, there are, without windows, it sort of turns its back to the main street. That was some of my issue in question for the project that we looked at last time. Also, a main intersection at 17th and Tustin, the drive-through at the other project that we considered, that also had just a flat wall that somewhat turns back to 17th Street. So I make reference of that so that we are mindful of that with design whenever we're looking at considering a project, particularly ones that are close to a street, a main street, that there are intentional design elements that would engage the street more intentionally. Windows, that there would be a way for there to be, again, more that interaction with the street. I think we did a good job over by 17th and Main. There's a Norms there just east of the Norms. There's a Subway, several other similar type of development as what we're talking about, what we're looking at here tonight, where there are the entry, that you can walk in. There's the windows, the doors there. So it's again, I think it was done well there. I think it just would be something again, just comment for design and for staff to consider as we look at projects similar to this.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you, David. Okay. Now's the time and place to consider item number 2, conditional use permit number 2019-07 to allow the sale of alcoholic beverages, beer, wine, and distilled spirits for the on-premise consumption at the new eating establishment, Colucci Town Restaurant, located at 2158 South Bristol Street in the General Commercial Zone C2 zoning district. Does anybody have anything to disclose at this point in time with regards to this item? Okay. Ivan, it's yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. As you stated, this application is for a new tenant, a new restaurant occupying the, I believe it was a Chinese buffet located at 2158 South Bristol, and the tenant will be Colucci Town Restaurant. So this is one of my 2 sushi restaurants, different styles, but I'll go over that with the other presentation as well. As I mentioned, this is for alcohol sales with a proposed new tenant that's currently undergoing tenant improvements, and this will be for a general alcohol license, type 47, and this is Happy Buffet. Now I remember the name. The zoning, district out there is general commercial, as well as the general plan designation, and it's surrounded by commercial residential uses. A lot of people remember the intersection because of the Starbucks, and so this building isn't quite visible from the intersection, but it is behind several other parcels So you might be familiar with it. There's a 7-Eleven behind it. And this is the floor plan identifying the location and the storage for alcohol. The larger box is actually a storage room towards the top of the page, and then the other smaller square is inside their counter service area, so they'll have some alcohol storage and display there as well. And as I mentioned, this is a restaurant. It's the tenant, the unit has always been a restaurant use since the original date of construction, since 1979. But it never really had alcohol. It wasn't an amenity that was offered based on that operation. But with the new tenant, they are interested in that, and it will provide an added service for them and any future tenant. Hopefully, they stick around for a while. But we have added conditions of approval, and some of those you'll see that are very similar to the first item that went before you today. But we are sure that those will mitigate any potential negative impacts. Tenant improvement plans have been submitted. They have been approved. They're currently working on that. They also provided an application or submitted an application for a Category 2 entertainment permit, and that's I know that that's been a concern in the past with tenants that are offering entertainment to make sure that they're consistent with all the regulations. So we are currently reviewing the application. PD has reviewed it and approved already. It's under planning review at the moment, but I did want to mention that. And just to refresh your memory of the entertainment permits, the Category 2 does not allow to go past midnight, and that's why you don't have an application for after hours before you tonight. There is no dancing, but it does allow for amplified music. And with that, staff recommends that the commission approve conditional use permit 2019-7 as conditioned. I'm available to answer any questions, and we also have the applicant here for any questions.
Does the commission have any questions of
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Does this particular applicant have any previous or current ABC license?
So the restaurant name, I believe, is more like a franchise. This will be their second location. Okay, 19. But I believe the Bakersfield, and he can answer that more with more detail. But they do have experience in operating the restaurant and the same style, and obviously with the alcohol as an amenity.
And then I'm wondering why they not apply for 43 or 41 first instead of 47 straight with the spirit and all that. Do they have a particular reason?
I think he might be able to answer that question a lot better than I can.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Eric?
Thank you. So I noticed in the conditions of approval, we have the property maintenance agreement. So are we going to have the same issue there as we had with the previous one?
I think
so, right?
I think we may have to allow the applicant to answer that. But one of the way that we can start to look at this is that if the commissions want us to look at, we can start, it's not ideal, but parceling it down to the area that our lease area by the property owner, by the tenant, and work progressively as the center changes tenancy. But it's all really a policy of how fast and how soon we want to implement.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the commissioners? Thank you, Ivan.
Thank you.
Okay. Madam Secretary, have we received any written communication on this item?
We did receive 2 letters in opposition, and those were distributed to the commission.
Okay. Does the applicant have anything that they'd like to say at this point in time?
No, but I can answer any questions.
Okay. Does the commission have any questions of the applicant? Ken? Okay.
Could you tell me the reason why you applied for type 47?
Sure. My customers, they're accustomed to that. We have 12 locations open. We're currently opening 8 more. We're going to have 20 by the end of the year. And the atmosphere and the environment, it's usually distilled spirits, margaritas, to that extent.
And what type of food are we serving at the
It's Mexican sushi. Mexican sushi, seafood, and it's really good. It's great food. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the commission at this point in time? No?
No.
We're good. Thank
Awesome.
you. Appreciate it.
No problem.
At this point in time, we'll open the public hearing. I do not have any cards on this item at this point in time, so if hearing none, then we will close the hearing and bring it back to the commission for motion. Any motion or discussion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve conditional use permit 2019-007 as a condition.
Okay, so we have a motion from Ken. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from David. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0, one absence. This is the time and place to consider item number 3, conditional use permit number 2019-08 to allow the sale of alcoholic beverage, beer, and wine for the on-premise consumption at the new eating establishment, Alicia Sushi, located at 3392 South Bristol Street in the planned shopping center C4 zoning district. Does anybody wish to disclose anything at this point in time with regards to this item? From the commission? No. Hearing none, we'll move on to the presentation. Ivan, you've got it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. Again, like I stated, this is the other sushi restaurant tonight, but this is a type 41. I don't know if it makes a difference. This is all-you-can-eat sushi location proposed at 3392 South Bristol, there by the Target shopping center. I know you've seen a lot of change and improvements to the center and a lot of new tenants, so this is one of them. And like I mentioned, this is a type 41 for beer and wine for a new location. The permits for this tenant are approved, but they haven't issued those yet, so they just have to come in and get those issued and start working. But everything's been approved through the city for review. No entertainment is proposed. And as I mentioned, this is the location there where the Chicken Maison and Target Center is located on the southwest corner of Alton and Bristol. And this is one of the end locations where they've done some improvements to open up kind of like a drive-through in the corner there on the southwest of the property. The district center general plan designation is a C4 shopping center zoning district. Again, it's surrounded by commercial uses and multi-residential towards the west of the property there. And so this is a floor plan that, well, it's rotated to make it fit to the slide, but essentially the location that they're proposing to store and display alcohol is similar to the previous application where they have a storage room and then a storage area and then display area where the service counter is. So it's not exceeding the 5% as the code allows. It's way below that. And again, this added amenity will provide an additional service to the restaurant, especially for the type of food that is offering. We have added the conditions, and you'll see the similar condition for property maintenance, but that can be up for discussion. Tenant improvements, as I mentioned, have been approved, but permits haven't been issued yet, so they'll be working on those, and no entertainment has been proposed. And with that, staff recommends approval of conditional use permit number 2019-8 as conditioned. The applicant is here as he's behind if you have any specific questions on operation and that sort of thing. And I am also available to answer any additional questions you may have.
Does the commission have any questions of staff at this point in time?
I do. Is the restaurant currently open? Oh, have not.
No, they all these tenants' spaces have been sort of rearranged and new, made larger or smaller or subdivided to provide spaces for new uses. So that was an overall project of the site. And I think Vince had worked on that for, doing site improvements and walkability, pedestrian pathways, that sort of thing. So this is a brand new tenant space.
Great.
Anybody else have any questions for Ivan? Okay.
Thank you.
Ivan. Madam Secretary, have we received any written communication at this point in time?
Yes, we received 2 letters in favor of this item, and that was distributed to the commission.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant at this moment like to speak?
Good evening, Commissioner. My name is Joey. I'm with Tate & Associate. I represent the property owner and the tenant. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and we're excited to be doing business in the city of Santa Ana. And just to circle back and to address Commissioner Wing's question earlier, the tenant to the site is new to the site. They're not open yet, but they do have locations over at Huntington Beach, which they are operating under the same sort of, type of business. And I just wanted to clarify and make this, on record in regards to the property maintenance. I did reach out to staff, and Ivan did, help me with this earlier today. I guess it's just the verbiage of the condition. When it says the applicant and the property owner had to sign it, it didn't really make sense for the applicant, the tenant, in this case, to be, being charged of cleaning up a 13-acre site if there were any sort of like graffiti or any trash in the area. So, but I did provide Ivan with the CC&R between the target site and our property, and their agreement of maintenance of the common area. So other than that, I don't have anything else to say, and we accept all the other conditions. Yep.
Does anybody have any questions of the applicant at this time? Joey, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Okay, at this moment, we'll open up public hearing. I do not have any items, any cards at this time, so if anyone would like to speak, please come forward. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll move on to a motion on this item. Does anyone like to make a motion? David?
Sure. I'll make a motion. It's great to see, by the way, just one of the improvements that have been made. It's appreciate staff's work with the property owner there to see the improvements, and it's great to see new operators coming in. I'm looking forward to going out and enjoying some all-you-can-eat sushi. So I'll make a motion for conditional use permit number 2019-08 as conditioned.
Second.
Second from Cynthia. Okay, any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 6-0, one absence. That closes our public hearing, We will now move on to comments. Does staff have any comments at this time?
I have none at this time.
None?
I have none.
Vince? You good? Okay.
Well, let me just ask you one thing. You had mentioned at the very beginning about Lynette Verino's tenure here. What we've done in the past is recognize those former commissioners with some kind of proclamation, see if they want to come back to the meeting and thank them for their time. So if you want to do that, we can put something together for the commissioner.
I think it's an excellent idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we schedule it for the next
We'll
meeting?
call Lynette and check her availability, and
Okay.
then we'll let the commission know when it's going to be, and we'll get it to the front of the agenda,
it's-
or whatever fits her.
I was going to ask that we do that. I'm glad you brought that up. That's good. Very good. All right. David, any comments?
None this evening, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay.
Actually, just to welcome.
I was going to say, don't make the guy feel like, you're sitting next to
Sorry
him.
about that. I thought about it after. I thought about it earlier, and I was going to approach him right after we're closed.
Talk about being
my only
friends.
comment.
Being friends within touching distance here. Come on.
Right. So I'd like to welcome my new neighbor here,
Reaching.
Commissioner Felix Rivera, and glad that I'm not the newbie on the commission anymore. So, welcome, Felix.
Thanks.
Felix.
No comment really, just wanted to say I'm excited to be here, so.
Okay. Eric?
Just one comment, welcome. It's a lot of fun, only when it's not, which is when it extends beyond 10 or 11 at night. Staff is great, Mark's great, everybody's great here, so welcome.
Thank you.
So just again, welcome, Felix, and I'm sure you'll do a fabulous job. I just want to thank staff for signing us up. For those that went to the Planning Commission Academy, I truly did learn a lot, and I think that I mentioned to Mark that some of the things that I learned would have been really helpful to do here together with staff here. Because it's very catered to what we do here, what happens at our planning counter and so forth. But I think we've talked with Vince, and hopefully some things are in the making. And I just want to say that I have a lot of other questions, and they'll be coming, but it was very helpful. And we got to meet some really cool other planning commissioners, so that was great. Thank you. Oh, and it wasn't so shabby to be on the Queen Mary for 3 days.
Cold, but not shabby.
I would like to welcome the new Commissioner Felix of the commission. This is fun. This is a very fun commission to be in. Also would like to take opportunity to thank staff in the city to provide the centers to the Plan Commissioner Academy. It's a very it's an eye opener, and I have learned a lot during those 3. A lot of times, in the 2 days I was there, some of the section I would like to go attend both and learn both events, but again, they're offering at the same time. So the good thing that they are also offering the PowerPoint online, so we can able to follow and you know what's going on, and able to have a reading material to read and learn more about it. I would like to possibly, so we have some new commissioners as well with us. I think if possible, the city attorney could offer like maybe workstation section for Brown Act. I think it's important for our Plan Commissioner to know more about some discussion during the academy about regarding Brown Act. And I've noticed a lot of people say, what's that? Somebody name or something? But anyway, that I think very important and very helpful for the Plan Commission to have that information. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Just a couple of comments. I'll kind of echo what Cynthia said. I think that the conference was, actually I think it was better than it was 2 years ago when it was up in Los Angeles. I think the content of a lot of the presentations that were given were more up to date, more germane to what's happening today than what they presented last time. I mean, last time was things like signage and things such as that, but I think this time we talked about density, affordable housing, and the key topics. I think one thing that I kind of got from it is that the league itself has a pretty extensive, shall we say, follow-up and everything else, and they keep track of all of the current legislation, past legislation, and I think that the comment was made that there's something like 200 bills that are currently in either the Senate or the Assembly for review, and 200 specific to housing. And I think it would be helpful possibly if we were able to get some kind of an update maybe in the near future as to what some of these housing bills are and what they're driving towards or striving to achieve at this point in time. I also agree with Ken on the fact that I think that there's a number of presentations that since we attended, we can get the downloads. A number of them were not downloaded onto the website when we finished the conference, but if we can get them available, then I think it'd be something to pass on to some of the newer commissioners and give them some updates and insight as to what's happening, because there were some very good presentations that were done. I agree. And it was overall a good conference, there's no doubt about that. So thanks again for supporting that. And with that, Felix, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, now next time around, you're not a newbie, so all right. And with that, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.